museum. A repository of crime, of death by violence. Here in the bleak stone structure which is Scotland Yard, there is a warehouse of souvenirs, where ordinary objects, a briar-root pipe, a dingy white glove, a lump of twisted sealing wax, all have a history of murder. This length of sash cord is quite commonplace. You might see something like this in any window frame.
Harmless-looking bit of rope.
It seems so. Frayed at one end, cut all cleanly at the other.
Just the right length to hook around a man's neck and twist.
Today, that bit of sash cord can be seen in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Department of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum.
Here we are in the Black Museum, Scotland Yard's Museum of Murder. Outside these walls of blackened brick and slate is London, where since daybreak the river has borne an endless burden of traffic. On fog-shrouded bridges and in narrow streets, tens of thousands of pedestrians have jostled one another, all very much alive. But here, within this room, the connoisseurs of crime may see recorded for posterity in cabinets, in wooden trays, in jars, carefully labeled and preserved, the evidence of vindictive death. This sash cord, short piece of rope, grimy, frayed at one end, not remarkable in itself, yet it came from the stage of a famous theater in the city of Brighton, where Octavia Kenmore, actress-manager, was concluding her annual engagement. The alley of that theater was like any other, a corridor of darkness between the street and the stage door. And one September evening, a man came running out of the shadows, startling the doorkeeper who sat dozing in his chair.
Mr. Carter, what's the trouble, sir?
You'll find out soon enough. Operator? St. John Carter here, Mercury Theatre. Send an ambulance quickly. There's been an accident. One of our stagehands, he's lying unconscious in the alley. Hurry, please. Yes.
One of the cast, Mr. Carter? Who is it? Tell me.
It's Buckland. I can't bring him round. I tried.
Chef Buckland? Oh, Miss Kenmore will be terribly distressed. Stage carpenter with her for 20 years.
I dare say she will.
Hadn't we better go and lift him in, sir? Perhaps there's something could be done.
No, it's better not to move him till the doctor comes. It may be serious. And we wouldn't want to injure him, you know.
A man found dead or dying. A phone call. Then the waiting. Over the crumpled figure stood old Tom Snellen, doorkeeper, and St. John Carter, leading man, waiting. Waiting until an ambulance drew up and an intern came to kneel beside Jeff Buckland.
Which one of you called us?
I did.
You said the man was unconscious.
Well, he looked to me. I'm no physician.
This man's dead. Shot through the heart. You'd have done much better to have called the police.
The police arrived, and actors coming in for the evening performance were questioned. The star of the play in the theater early, as was her custom, was left undisturbed. The constable at the door admitted a young plainclothesman.
Inspector Mitchell?
Yes, Jordan?
One of the men found this, sir. Hidden under some rubbish in the alley. .32 caliber.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Ellis.
Attention now focused on David Ellis, stage manager in Miss Kenmore's troupe.
Ever seen this pistol, Mr. Ellis?
Why, yes, it's the one we use in the play. I keep it in my desk. I've the usual license for it.
What sort of ammunition do you have?
Oh, blank cartridges, of course. 32 blanks.
It's not loaded with blanks now. Bullets. And one chamber has been fired. I must warn you, Ellis. Anything you say henceforth will be written down and may be used as evidence.
What? You mean you're arresting Dave? But you can't. He never hurt anyone.
Who are you, young lady?
Miss Kenmore's secretary.
My wife, Inspector. Please, Lucy.
This is... Oh, Inspector, you don't understand. Jeff was our friend. He's been, like a father to both of us. And while you stand here wasting time, the real murderer's getting farther away.
That will do, Lucy. I take it there's been some trouble. Please, sir, state your business and then leave. I can't have my theatre disrupted 15 minutes before curtain time.
Oh, Miss Kenmore.
Now, Lucy, control yourself. Will someone be good enough to tell me what has happened?
Certainly, Miss Kenmore. I had hoped it wouldn't be necessary to disturb you just at present. But one of your stagehands, Mr. Buckland, was found this evening outside...
Octavia Kenmore, distinguished actress-manager, darling of the provinces. Equally adept at comedy or tragedy.
Of course, I'm gravely shocked. Poor Mr. Buckland. A good and faithful servant, Inspector. Oh, but it is preposterous of you to suspect Mr. Ellis. My stage managers never kill people. In any case, I can't spare him. We ring up in 10 minutes exactly.
I'm extremely sorry, Miss Kenmore, but Ellis is a material witness. He must come to the station house for further questioning. It was his pistol
It was my pistol. I own all the props used in my
The
place.
license is in his name. Legally, he is the owner.
Then I demand that you release him in my personal recognizance.
I'd like to do that, ma'am, but unfortunately your entire company is under surveillance and is only permitted to perform tonight. Ellis, you must come with me.
Very well. Go with them, David. Lucy and I will be down to see you. And the inspector, as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you, Miss Kenmore.
The police left the theater, except for certain constables on duty at the door. And in her dressing room, Octavia Kenmore made ready.
Lucy, my child. Ah, me. How weak a thing the heart of woman is. Come. Don't be downcast.
Oh, how can I help it, Miss Kenmore? With David in prison.
Nonsense. He's only detained for questioning. He isn't charged with any crime. I'm thinking of Geoffrey Buckland, an excellent good man, and the best stage carpenter there was in England.
Was he married?
His family's in Manchester. I'll have to telephone them immediately after the performance.
What? You really mean you're going on?
Certainly I am. And you will do Davy's job tonight.
What? Me? Run the show?
Why not? You've seen Davy do it often enough. And work is what you need. There's no time to think. Now, quickly now. Check the stage for the first scene and while I repair my makeup. Go, my child.
The play went smoothly. The curtain rose and fell as the actors took their calls. Lucy Ellis, listening to the applause, realized suddenly she was quite calm and self-possessed. But her composure was nothing to that of Octavia Kenmore. She descended on the police station not many minutes later.
Ah, Miss Kenmore and Mrs. Ellis. Come in, won't you?
I am in, Inspector. Now, I expect a full explanation of what you have accomplished by imprisoning my employee these past 2 hours.
Please sit down, ladies. There's plenty of time.
Is there? I expect to leave Brighton tomorrow night, taking my stage manager with me.
Is he all right, Inspector?
He's not in chains or even in a dungeon, Mrs. Ellis. In fact, he's quite comfortable.
Oh, thank heavens for that.
If you will both be seated, madam.
Since you insist. Thank you, Inspector. Well, have you nothing to tell us about this case?
I'm waiting at the moment for our pathologist's report.
Of course. The autopsy, is it not?
Yes, routine police procedure.
Well, the man's been shot. That was quite obvious.
The bullet is important, particularly in court, to establish the actual weapon.
It seemed to me the hand that fired the weapon is a more important consideration.
Eventually, Miss Kenmore, and inevitably, I trust, we'd like to know more about Buckland's background, his habits. Did he drink, for example?
Despite the general opinion, there are many in the theatrical profession who are not addicted to alcohol, Inspector. Mr. Buckland was a decent man.
Octavia Kenmore told the truth about the murdered man, a non-drinker, except for an occasional pint of bitter after the show, a devoted family man in an occupation where family relationships are often difficult to maintain. There was nothing to indicate a motive for murder.
In all the years with me, I have never known him to miss a single performance. He was a craftsman who could rig and handle any production, heavy or light. With him on the job, my stage managers had an easy time of it. Everyone liked him. His only fault, perhaps, was that he was too loyal to me.
We're not being much help to you, are we, Inspector?
Oh, yes. You've helped to fill in the picture. I've learned a lot.
No? What have you learned?
2 important things, Miss Kenmore. First, that Buckland was not a man who made enemies. All my reports bear this out. And also that he was extremely devoted to you.
You think that's significant?
Extremely. You keep a close rein in your company. You should know of any jealousies or quarrels that occurred.
I'd know about them, yes.
I'm sure of that. You're not the person to tolerate friction or even bad habits in members of your troop. Come in.
Pathology report, Inspector. I knew you wanted right away.
Thank you. Yes. Well, this is interesting. Why wasn't I told of this before?
You know what they're like in the lab, Inspector. They wanted to be sure. Absolutely sure.
I see. Miss Kenmore, can you think of a reason why anyone should want to shoot a dead man?
Well, hardly. A useless procedure.
It seems so. So it happened. Apparently Buckland was dead of strangulation before he was shot.
Today, the instrument of that murder, a piece of sash cord, can be found in the Black Museum.
Now back to Theater of the Mind on 104.5 Chum FM.
It was a good question. Inspector Mitchell repeated it.
Can you think of a reason why anyone should want to shoot a dead man?
An interesting problem, is it not?
The medical report is very definite. Buckland was strangled with a thin piece of rope. Because he wore a scarf about his neck, the marks weren't noticed till they brought him to the lab. He was dead before the bullet ever was fired.
Inspector Mitchell then went back to the scene of the crime, the alley beside the theater where the body of Geoffrey Buckland had been found. And with him, at her own insistence, went Octavia Kenmore.
What are they looking for, Miss Kenmore?
The thin piece of rope, of course. They'll never find it. If the murderer had an ounce of brains, he'll have taken it with him.
Oh, it's strange. I don't suppose this alley ever had so much light turned onto it before.
It was strange. Men searching every cranny, their flashlights pointing and probing, picking out grillwork balconies, iron ladders, and fire escapes thick with rust. The men themselves silhouetted against the light.
Oh, Miss Kenmore?
Yes?
We found this, caught up in that balustrade. I think it's the weapon. Our lab can tell us definitely, of course.
I see. A piece of lash line.
What's that? Lash line, did you say?
Yes, it's the sort of rope we use backstage to lash the scenery together.
Much the same as ordinary clothesline?
Or sash cord, yes.
Would you be able to identify it as belonging to your stage equipment?
Oh, that's hard to say.
Miss Kenmore, Inspector.
Yes, Lucy?
One of the stagehands reported to me tonight. They'd had trouble with one of the sets. The line was too short to make it fast.
Could you locate that piece of scenery, Mrs. Ellis?
I think so. I told him to leave it on top of the stack so that we could replace it in the morning.
Well, let's go on stage then, shall we? Do you know, Miss Kenmore, as a youth, I was strongly attracted to the theatre.
Were you indeed, Inspector Mitchell?
They moved through the stage door onto the platform.
This is the flat, the one with the short lash line.
You see how it works, Inspector. The rope is flipped round the iron cleats and tied off at the bottom, so the audience sees only an unbroken wall.
I understand perfectly. The cord of this rope matches the piece found in the alley, rust, stains, and all.
What does that suggest to you, Inspector?
There's little doubt in my mind, Miss Kenmore, that the person we want is a member of your own company.
Yes, I've decided that for myself some time
ago. A member of your company, I think, cut off this cordage to strangle Buckland, and someone else, familiar with these premises, took the pistol from Ellis's desk.
Then you don't think my husband's guilty?
I haven't said that. But I must check once more who actually was here, backstage, between the hours of 6 and 7.
I was here myself in my dressing room. And Sneller, the doorkeeper, was on duty. He surely
We took his statement, of course. He seemed a bit evasive now that I think of it.
I won't hear a word against him. Sneller's perfectly honest. I take an oath on it.
Is he? A remarkably sound sleeper all the same?
What do you mean?
The extraordinary thing about his story, he claims to have been dozing in his chair. He didn't wake even when a pistol was fired not 30 feet away. I think perhaps I'd better go and visit him.
Then I'll come.
No, Miss Kenmore, not this trip. Investigations of this kind are sometimes dangerous.
The old man lived close by the theater. 4 flights of well-worn steps led to an attic door.
What do you want? What is it?
You're Mr. Snellen?
I am.
We're the police. My name is Mitchell, C.I.D. Should I show you my credentials?
No, I recognize you, sir.